Welcome to Web Development Lesson 6.5. In this video, we're going to see how we can retrieve information from the internet and not just simply copy and paste it into our web pages. To do this, we're going to use a concept called RESTful API calls. To assist us with these calls, we're going to use a JavaScript library called jQuery. Now, before we head on to our example, it's going to be helpful for us to understand what a RESTful API call is. So a RESTful API call is essentially a link that we can use that then returns information to us. Now that information is going to be somehow structured using arrays and JSONs. Now various RESTful API calls will produce different types of information. So again, it's about you understanding, the website that you're retrieving this information from. So let's get to it. So as we saw, there's a website for Chuck Norris jokes. That's what this RESTful API call is for. And here is that link from the PowerPoint slideshow. So if I click on this link, what I get is a JSON with some key information. The two that I want to point out is the icon URL, which is an image of Chuck Norris, as well as the value key, which is the actual joke. So this is what a RESTful API call looks like. You use a link and you get some information. Now, to assist us with this ability to retrieve information using a link, a RESTful API call, we're going to use a library called jQuery. Now, jQuery does more than just what we're going to use it for, which is simply to retrieve information. jQuery can be used to actually develop web pages. Again, that'll be left up to you as an exploration. So let's head on over to our example. So in order for us to take advantage of these RESTful API calls, we need to load up jQuery just to make the process a little simpler. Now I got the link here. Now jQuery is JavaScript code, and you might be familiar with using script source to load up JavaScript files that are local. Well, guess what? You could also use script source to load files that are on the internet. And that's what we're doing here. So we're loading the jQuery JavaScript code from Google's API storage into our program. Now that we've loaded up the library, we got to do a couple of things in order to take advantage of jQuery and its ability to make RESTful API calls. The first thing I'm going to do is something called Ajax, and I'll demonstrate later on why this is important. It's a function that accepts a JSON, and we're simply going to tell it asynchronous false. What this is going to do, this is going to ensure that the program waits for the data to be loaded before anything else happens. Again, that's going to be very useful for us. All right, so let me create a link to represent that RESTful API call. Again, this is the link we're going to use to get that information, that data. And now we're going to create data equals, we're going to use jQuery now again. And jQuery has a nice function called getJSON, which accepts a link, and we can return a response JSON. Now, to just investigate a little bit of what we're going to see here, let's do a console log of that data. Now, what we should be getting is something similar to this. Maybe not exactly this because, again, it's a random joke, but the structure should be very similar. So let's open this up a little bit more. We can close this side out. Let's go ahead and run this. And let's click on run. And there we go. So you can see here that the console log spit out a JSON with the icon URL for the Chuck Norris picture, as well as the joke. Now let me show you what happens if we don't include this line. Let's run it again. You'll see that we get undefined. The reason for that is that it takes time for jQuery to reach out to this website get this information back, and then return it to our web page. Now, the way a program works is that this line, without this additional line of code here, is not going to wait for that response. It's going to run it and immediately expect the data to be back. Now, the thing is, the data hasn't been returned yet. And when we do the console log, it says undefined. Now, when I bring this back in, this tells the program, okay, you're retrieving information. You have to wait until that information returns in order for you to continue on. So this actually forced the program to wait here until the data gets returned to the web page. So let's run it again. See that we don't get undefined this time. Yeah, we get another joke. All right, so having done that, let's just create a quick card. So let's do a let build. And let's simply set it equal to a div class equals card. Let's do a build plus equals. Let's do the image first. So let's do an img source. Let's string interpolate that data dot icon URL. Again, using your knowledge of working with JSON. Again, data is this whole JSON, and the icon URL is this link right here. Let's go ahead and close that out. Let's do another build plus equals for the actual joke. And let's do the joke as a paragraph. Let's string interpolate that, which is a data dot value right here. This is the key value. Now let's close off our paragraph. And then let's go ahead and close off our div. Okay. I think we are almost ready to go, with the exception of, let me go ahead and grab in that output. So let's say output equals document dot get element by ID. Actually, since I loaded up jQuery, I probably should have showed you that too, but I don't want to do too many things in one video. But jQuery would actually make that process a lot simpler. All right, so now let's do output dot inner HTML is equal to build. And let's cross our fingers that I make any mistakes along the way. So now we should see the joke pop up here, but as well pop up here. And there we go. So if Michael Jackson can moonwalk, Chuck Norris can run in the sun. Again, I'm not saying the jokes are the best, but again, this is information that was retrieved through the RESTful API call to the Chuck Norris IO website. Now, as an explanation of another website, maybe one that gives us more information than just a simple JSON, we're going to look at this one, Zoo Animal API. And what this one does, this will give us an array. And we can see an example from here. So we're going to do this API call with a number. Now I'm just going to put the number 10 there, which allows us to get 10 different animals. And what we'll end up getting is an array of JSONs with each animal being its own JSON. Now, to kind of expedite this a little bit, I have some of this code already in here, so I'm just going to copy and paste it instead of having you sit there and watch me type. But I will go through a little slower in that. Let me comment out this part, and then we'll kind of discuss what the resulting code is. So just like before, we have our link. We used to get JSON with the link, response JSON, and let's simply just dump it out to the console to see what this is all about. And just like we saw in the example, here, I want to go to the very top. Here is our array. We have the square brackets with each animal being a JSON with, let's see, what do we have here? We have an image link. That's nice. We could definitely use that. And we have, where is it? The names in here. Oh, so we have the name as well. We have the Latin name and a bunch of other information we could possibly include as part of the card. So because this is an array, now we have to bring in our knowledge of working with arrays. So data is this array first. So we do data.length, and that's going to allow us to go through each particular animal and then access that key value. So data bracket I will give us the particular animal, and the dot name will then give us the name. And as you can see here for the image, now I do image link, which is this link here, which should give us the picture. All right, so let's go ahead and run this again and see what this looks like. Actually, I'm going to run it on the full screen version. And I mean, the pictures are taking a little slow to load, but that's okay. They might be high resolution pictures. Might be just a stand that's keeping them small. So can we see here, we have the zebra, the eye, which looks to me like a monkey, the dart frog. Again, I don't want to go through all the pictures, but again, this was an example of a different RESTful API call to a different website that then returned an array of JSON, whereas the Chuck Norris one simply just returned a simple JSON. All right, so let's go back to our presentation and let's review what we've done. Excuse me. All right, so in this lesson, we saw how we can retrieve information from the internet with the help of a JavaScript library called jQuery. We used RESTful API calls, which are essentially links, to retrieve information that could be a JSON, it could be an array of JSON, it could be an array of JSONs with more arrays in there. So hopefully you're excited about being able to, pull live information into your websites and produce some awesome websites. Enjoy.